Hey guys, I'm Robert. Welcome back to the channel. It's New Year's Day. Hope you had a great evening last night. Hope you're relaxing a little bit today. I know in a lot of places in the world there's not much else that we can do, but we're gonna get through it. We're gonna have a good year. I'm excited for it. Welcome back to the garage. I've got the two 675 LTs. I've got the new E30 M3 sitting here. No, why is the E30 sitting here? I just put it here as maybe a little joke. We're actually gonna go pick it up tomorrow. So that's something I'm really excited about. The new E30 is coming home tomorrow. And this is something that I really enjoy sharing with you guys, because you see that we've got the supercars. You don't, the GT2 RSMR is sitting right here. You don't see it. The 620R is right out there. So we've got a lot of different cars around, and I'm actually really excited to bring the E30 M3 home. I think it's probably going to be, in terms of my car year or my car world, the most exciting car that I'm going to have this year. And I think that's a lot of fun to have these other kinds of cars around and to be excited about a 1988 BMW M3. So hope you guys enjoy the content that's going to come on that. But we've been doing a lot of videos here in the garage, and one of the big topics has been, or I don't want to say big topic, a common thing that's been coming up is, Robert, why do you have two 675 LTs? Why do you have a Spider and a coupe? And I had to laugh because I read that question. I said, well, hell, I don't know why I have two. It's a really good question. My wife popped into the garage earlier and brought Tom and I something to drink, and she actually said, what are you guys shooting? I said, well, yeah, we're shooting a video on why do I have two 675 LTs. She goes, I'm excited to watch that. I'm curious, you know? And so it's even a question that I ask myself, that my family asks, the friends around say, what were you doing? And it is a good question. But I think what we can do is we can start with two cars, a 675 LT Spider in Mexico blue, and then a 675 coupe in McLaren orange with a roof scoop. When I first got into McLarens, I started with a 650S, and I skipped the 12C. I went straight to a 650S. And I was excited for this car because I saw it as a car that was on the forefront of technology, and even the 650S was beating in straight line and you know, all out performance a lot of the cars, a lot of its peers. And it was really exciting to see this brand that was building fast cars, and the 720S built on it. Still today, other cars aren't keeping up with the 720S. They're still not as fast this many years later. So McLaren really started bringing this technology and this excitement to the table at the beginning. Obviously, a lot of talk. We had a 458 at the same time, and the 458 was much more emotional. The Speciale was much more emotional. But McLaren came right into this new turbo era before some of the other companies did. And I had the 650S, and I really liked it. I took it to the Nürburgring, I drove it, and I had a lot of fun with it. But when I started hearing about a limited edition, lightweight, track-focused car, it was something I knew that I wanted. So I started speaking with McLaren Stuttgart. That's who I get all the McLarens from, and said, you know, tell me about this car. Is this something that I could get? I've only bought one McLaren. You know, I didn't have a P1. I didn't have a 12C new or anything like that. And it's neat because the 675 was actually the first car that McLaren built that they actually had a lot of orders for, a lot of people coming in and saying, I want this car, I want this car. And so it actually had to work out and see if I could get one. And I was lucky enough to be able to get a slot. And then I went one step further and said, you know, but I really only want it if I can get a roof scoop. So there was a lot of back and forth with McLaren, and ultimately I got a roof scoop on the car, and I was able to spec it the way that I want. As I was going through the design process of the car, I did a lot. I had guys helping me make 3D generations of the car so we could see what it would look like before it was built, adding carbon fiber here, taking carbon fiber away. And we'll go into this more because we're going to do a how to spec a car video, or a concept of my ideas when I spec a car, what I look at and everything, and we'll go into it. But I spent, I mean, days speccing this car, designing it, Excel sheets with different options, and then putting those into configurators to see what it would look like. And it was a lot of fun. One of the things I was going to do was I was actually going to build the coupe, but and paint it Mexico blue. However, a buddy of mine who's in Northern California, who we actually later find out we only live 45 minutes apart, I say, buddy, the internet brings a lot of people together, makes the world a heck of a lot smaller, especially when you're ordering cars there's only 500 of. So he built his Mexico blue coupe, whatever you want to call it if you're British American, and he did it with a roof scoop as well. And I said, you know what, there's only so few of these cars. I don't want to come out and have a twin, I guess, to his. Now, that was what led me to go ahead and spec the car in Mexico, or in McLaren orange. Now, I was confident in speccing it McLaren orange because I knew that a Spider was coming. So as all of this was happening, as I was speccing the car and designing it and getting excited for it, I started hearing whispers of a Spider. Now, there were a lot of owners who didn't hear these whispers of Spider. There were a lot of people who put deposits, bought a coupe and thought, man, I've got one of 500 cars. They were really pumped to have a limited edition car. And here I was saying, man, I'm buying this car. It's going to be one of 500, but I know that there's going to be at least 500 Spiders coming out. It was bittersweet for me. It was exciting for me because I knew I was going to ultimately order a Spider as well. I was going to get a car that I could use as a road car, take the top down, drive around maybe with Tiffany and go have some fun. But it was frustrating because at the same time, when I first stepped into the 675 LT, this was a track car. This is a limited edition track car designed for people that want to run on the track. And all of a sudden we have a Spider coming out, which ultimately diluted the would you say, specialness, the limited edition standpoint of the car by another 500 cars. It took away a tremendous amount of value that we were going to have as owners in these cars later. So I can't complain today if I tell you that these two cars did not hold value. If they only made 500 675 LTs, I would have one of 500, and I guarantee you the values would be much stronger than they are today. But McLaren came out and built a Spider. The problem is that when McLaren said we're going to build a 675 LT, it's a coupe, and there's only going to be 500 of them, they didn't lie, but they carefully chose the words that they delivered to us owners, and then they built a Spider. They didn't mention that there will not be a Spider, they just said there will only be 500. So for me, I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to continue with the coupe. I'm going to go ahead and just double down and get the Spider as well. So I got the Spider. Obviously, going through the design process of that car was a lot of fun as well. I wanted something that stood out, something that really showed the lines of the car. And today, I probably wouldn't spec it in this color again. I would probably go maybe a little bit more conservative. As you can see, the colors of the cars are changing a little bit. We had a green 570S. We had the orange 650S, the orange LT right here. But now what do I have? I've got a white 720. I've got a white 620 R. Look, I can't even remember all the names of these cars because there's so many, and that's something we're going to get into in a minute. The black 620R. So you can see the color scale is getting a little bit more conservative, but I'm enjoying that right now. I'm enjoying the more, I would say, serious colors and focusing on accents like on the GT2 with a white car and gold stickers. I'm enjoying being able to personalize it with stickers, which you can change if you get tired of it. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. There's not a whole lot that I can do with this to really personalize it without going completely gumball rally over the top. So let's talk a little bit about the driving of these two cars. You've got a 675 coupe and you've got a 675 Spider. They are exactly the same car. One thing that McLaren does very well that I personally have felt when driving a Spider from Ferrari, for example, is you get no flex in the chassis. The carbon tub on the McLarens keep the car very stable. I drove a 458 Spider, and the car, you could actually feel the chassis twist and move. It wasn't the feel that you want. These cars, from the actual performance, the actual driving perspective, are absolutely identical in terms of how they feel. Front end grip, chassis, everything, identical, no differences. You would fully expect that from a McLaren. Where the differences come in is the actual experience that they provide. In the 675 coupe, the seating position is fantastic. Obviously, the LT has the same, but one thing that's added is we have the roll bar, or the roll hoop, I guess you could call it, that actually has the harnesses built onto it. And when you're in that car and you're seated in that car with the harnesses on, it's the most race car-like seating position, the most exciting seating position of any car that I've ever driven on the Nürburgring, or really anywhere for that matter. It is absolutely perfect. It's better than the 620R. It's better than the Porsche. It's better than anything from Ferrari. That is the best seating position that I have found. You're reclined in a certain way. The pedal position is perfect. Everything is right on the money, and I really enjoy it. In the Spider, it's obviously similar. The seating position is the same, but you don't have the harnesses, so you're feeling a little bit different. Harnesses really add something to it. When you go out and actually drive, you have two things. The Spider has obviously the open top, or the fact that you can put the back window down. When you put the back window down, you hear the exhaust coming in. You put the drivetrain in the sport mode, and if you shift it just the right spot, it lets out a really nice crack and a really nice pop, and you hear that in the Spider, but you don't hear that in the coupe. In the coupe, it's just too much glass and too much roof scoop and everything blocking it. But what you get in the coupe, obviously, is the sound of the intake, and you get the sound, the whistling from the intake and everything, and it sounds amazing. It sounds absolutely awesome. If you guys search around the channel, you'll see some videos where we're on track with it. It sounds like Darth Vader's breathing down your neck, and I can tell you that I would not own, personally, a 675 or a 620 without a roof scoop, knowing what I know now. It's one of those things where when you get into another one, you feel like, oh man, it's missing something. And for those of you that have the 675, it doesn't mean your car's bad if you don't have the roof scoop. It just means that the roof scoop is so special. It's so exciting that it really makes this car behind me here, the orange car, it really makes that car what it is. It gives it its character. That roof scoop adds no power. So many people say, Robert, does the roof scoop add power? Absolutely not. Well, why not? It's ramming air into it. That ramming of air does nothing. We have turbos that are actually compressing air and shoving it into the motor. Those turbos do not need air being pushed into an intake. So the turbos are doing more work than you could ever do with a ram air effect. People have said, does it take away from your top speed because of the drag? I have never seen or felt any negative from drag on the roof scoop. In fact, if you close the roof and you go up to high speed, you don't hear anything, any sound drag or anything originating from the roof line. All you hear is literally intake sound. Something interesting about both of these cars, when you get the coupe, you have to upgrade the sound system. So along with the roof scoop. So there's like a, I don't know, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 euro option that you have to tick if you got the roof scoop, and that was the upgraded sound system. All it does is gives you louder shit audio than the base sound system. It was the worst 5,000 euro that they could ever make you spend was upgrading the sound system. And they say you have to have that because the roof scoop is so loud that you can't make phone calls and you can't do anything. And the bottom line is you can't make phone calls. You can't really listen to music enjoyably or do anything in the car with the roof scoop because it's literally too loud inside. I think many of you guys know that I'd prefer to order a lot of these cars without any sound system, so I'm okay with that. But I definitely didn't like having to go and buy the upgraded sound system just because of the roof scoop. I would have rather had the option to delete everything completely. So that's one thing that you can't do. In the Spider, it's a little bit better. You can start to take phone calls. You have to be going maybe under 60 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, and then you can start to take phone calls. This day and age with things like the earbuds, the AirPods, whatever brand you're using that pop in and actually seal in your ear, you might be able to use something like that, and get a better sound. I haven't tried it, but the cars both are too loud to really effectively talk on the phone while you're driving. And for me, that's not such a big deal, but it's neat for you guys to know. The other thing that's really cool about the Spider is when the roof is open. I told you a minute ago about with the back window open, but when the roof is open, your senses are just overwhelmed. You're hearing all this sound. From the mirror, you've got a flat deck going right out behind you, and you've got your wing going up and down, and you see right to it. And then you hear the pops and the bangs from the motor. On downshift, it's burbling. As you're decelerating, it's burbling. It really is a special sound to drive that car. It's something that does excite me, and it's a lot of fun. When you drive it on the track, I've done a handful of laps on the car in the track as well. And when you drive it on the track and you get it underneath the bridges and you're going under the bridges and you time your shifts just right, it makes you wish that there was a longer tunnel at the Nürburgring. I can just say it that way, but it sounds absolutely amazing. So both cars are a lot of fun. In typical McLaren fashion, there is a slight lack of front end grip. You can get some mid-corner understeer, and that is something that unfortunately every McLaren does. I hope that they can start working on that, because I think that if McLaren can work on that mid-corner understeer, they have probably one of the best driver's car. It's a safe car to drive fast. It's a fun car to drive fast. You can trail brake it really late and bring it in, and you almost have to use that trail braking to rotate the car due to this understeer I'm talking about. But they're special. They're a lot of fun. Both of these cars are cars that I've had my doubts along the way. Obviously, the Spider more so. The Spider has about 7,000 or 8,000 kilometers on it now. They've been mostly road kilometers, and I haven't got to use the car in a way that I really wanted to. I haven't enjoyed it in the full sense, so maybe this spring I'll get to do that. The Coupe, I've never had any doubt about it. The Coupe has been a car that I've had so much fun with. I knew it was going to go to the Nürburgring. For many of you guys that are at the Nürburgring, you saw that car doing tons of laps. I think it's at around 1,100 laps now that the car has on the Nürburgring. And it's been fun for me. It's been quite reliable. You guys will laugh, quite reliable. It did have the motor replaced one time. One motor. But it was because there was a head gasket that actually blew. And part of that head gasket that blew, they said, you know what, we could replace the head gasket, but what we're going to do for you, because we know how you use the car, we would rather replace the whole motor and just have you on your way with no concerns. So I was very appreciative of that. I think that with any manufacturer, look at Porsche, they came out with a GT3 RS, or was it a GT3 several years ago, and they had to replace motors on hundreds and hundreds of customers of cars. So these things can happen. I was very happy that they replaced the motor for me, but other than that, the car's been great. The things that McLarens have for me as a problem, both of these cars on a hot day will overheat. A lot of people say, oh, check the thermostats. It's beyond that. The car cooling system just isn't up to capacity. If you do have a hot track day, you'll get to the point of the track where you're starting to go, you go through Breitscheid and you're running up the hill, Bergwerk to Kesselchen and all that, and the car starts to overheat. Your AC shuts off at first, and then once the AC shuts off, then it goes in, a couple kilometers later, it goes into reduced engine power, and then you're limping it back. You can start to see it coming on because the oil temperature and the water temperature start climbing. The 600 LT does it. The 570S does it. The 620R does it. The 675 LT does it. The only car that we weren't having overheating issues with was the 720S. The 720S was a new generation, a new motor, an entire new cooling package. Everything was completely replaced, and with the 720S, we didn't have any overheating issues. The car could run on a very hot day, and it could run lap after lap. It had other things that it would do, but it didn't have these overheating issues. So I would say the overheating is probably the biggest thing that is a negative about this car. But again, it's only when you're tracking hard and on a very hot day. If you're out on a day that's, you know, I'm going to talk Celsius because that's what I always remember on the dial. Anything over about 32, 33 degrees Celsius, that was when I knew, okay, if I lap back to back, I'm going to overheat. If you're under 33 degrees, then you were able to run, you know, consistently, no problem. So where does this car fit in the entire McLaren ecosystem? That's another question that I saw in a recent video. And I thought it was a really good question because I have no freaking clue. If I really think about it, I look at the cars that have this motor. It ranges from the 12C to the 650S, and I'm probably going to forget some. The 570 GT, 540, 600, 620, P1, 675, 675 Coupe. It goes on and on, the cars that have this motor, and the motor feels the same in every one of them. They might have a map on it that has a slightly different power number at the end, but the motor does feel very similar. You P1 guys are going to say, oh no, it's completely different. And I can appreciate that. It's got a lot of different things going on with it, but it is the same platform. And that's something that Ferrari's doing right now as well. This motor that was in the 488, the Pista, the F8, the Roma, the Lusso T, the new probably SUV that they're coming out with, everything you can imagine is getting this motor. And I think that's taking away a little bit of the excitement away, because I don't think you're going to find somebody that says, I love this motor. This motor gets the job done. It revs very nicely. It is a little bit slow to respond. And people will say, oh, what about the turbo lag? Anybody that says this car has turbo lag, you don't drive a car on the track and rev it from 3,500 RPM. You need to always have your revs up. You need to treat this more like a naturally aspirated car. If you were to lug a naturally aspirated car down at 3,000 RPM and try and come out of a turn, you're also not going to go anywhere. In this car, you do need to keep the RPMs up a little bit, and that's how you run it. And then you actually can modulate the throttle very well, and you can control the car with the throttle quite well, so that's nice. I will go into a whole topic, another video specifically about the coupe, and talk about what it's like to drive. We'll actually do videos with me sitting in the driver's seat and in the seating position and show you what I like about it, because I think that's actually an interesting topic. But I might have been able to handle the fact that I ordered one of 500 in the LT coupe. I was a little frustrated, but I jumped on the Spider and said, okay, I'll have one of 1,000. Then more models came out, all carbon Spiders, MSOHSs, and yada, yada, yada. And it was a little bit annoying. Then the 600 LT came out. Sure, I bought one. But the 600 LT is very close to the 675 in terms of performance, in terms of styling, in terms of the motor package, in terms of everything that it had. And I thought that was pushing it just a little bit much. So I do think that McLaren took it a little bit too far with all of these special LT cars. There seems to be more LT cars running around than the standard cars, and I would like to see this be set as something that's a little bit more special, or the price needs to come down on them tremendously. When you set a price for a 675 LT, it was up there. The cars were not very cheap compared to everything else on the market. They cost much more than a Pista did. They cost much more than a Speciale did. And you think, well, I'm getting one of 500. The Pista wasn't limited except by time. The Speciale wasn't limited except by time. And when McLaren comes out and says, okay, you're getting one of 500, you say, you know what, I'm going to pay 60 to 100,000 more than I think the car's worth, only because of the limited edition value of it. When they start diluting that, they start reaching into your pockets effectively and taking your hard-earned money and saying, yes, we told you were getting something that's exclusive, and you're not really, and it makes a lot of people gun shy. So what we're seeing as a result of this is there's a lot of people who I know who own the 675 who are not buying a 765. There's a lot of them, a lot of people. I mean, I would say probably 40 or 50 people that I know that own these cars that said, I'm not buying one. I feel like I got burned on my 675, and I'm not going to go ahead and get a 765 because I just don't want to do it. And some of them also said, but I also love my 675 and I'm going to keep it. So going for the brand and building all these cars definitely changed the mindset of a lot of buyers and said, you know, I'm a little bit more lukewarm on the brand now, even though I love my car. And I think that's how I am. I love these cars. You know how much I've enjoyed the 620R this year. But I actually have had very little thoughts of getting a 765. I'm never going to say never. I still need to maybe get more seat time in a 765, see maybe if I can get it on the Nordschleife, see what I think about it. But at the moment, the way that everything went with these cars, the way that the cars are very expensive, and if you look at the values of them now, the way that they depreciated tremendously, does make me think, well, you know what, I really don't need to do that again on a 765. Who knows, maybe I look at buying one used if I decide that I really want one. Or maybe someone gets me in one and I've just fallen in love and you'll see it in my garage next week. I'm never going to say never, but that's my initial thoughts on it. You guys know this channel is just about me sharing my mindset at the time. I actually don't have any cars on the radar right now that I'm buying other than the E30 M3, and I'm so excited about that. That's something I'm really pumped on. I don't have anything from McLaren lined up. I don't have anything from Ferrari lined up. I was looking at GT C4 Lusos, and I didn't pull the trigger yet. So I think really right now the E30 M3 is the only thing that's coming in. We're going to also do a video talking about the fleet update. So that's going to be one of the next ones that come out. We're going to announce who wins the Yaris laps, because I said whoever guessed the fleet the closest will get 4 laps in the Yaris and a hotel stay at Apex. So that's going to come out in that video as well. But yeah, any questions you guys have about these cars, there will be, like I said, there'll be a follow-up video with the LT, with the coupe, and we'll go over it and we'll touch base on those. But you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for everything you're doing for this channel. Comments, concepts, ideas, even all of you making your first YouTube comments and just saying, hey, I'm here, I'm enjoying the channel. That's what keeps Tom and I motivated to keep pumping out the videos. And Tom saying, Robert, we're doing a video, get your ass out to the garage now. It's because you guys are supporting us and encouraging us to do it. So thank you so much. Again, have a great day. Happy New Year, and we'll catch you later.